If you didn't cry watching that moment, you have no heart.
Why was I so emotional and filled to the brim with goosebumps? And why was I so drawn to these people and I never had a clue what was going on?
They are going through the same struggles that my people, along with other minority groups, are going through in this country. That young lady inspired the hell out of me.
And that's why you will see Black people kind of like congregate in the comment section of a Haka video.
The way I understand it is that it wouldn't change anything for the Pakeha, the people of European descent.
It's time for our leaders to rise up and show us that same fire.
This topic is interesting to me because you've never really seen this before. So I'm real curious on how this is about to play out.
The Haka dance in New Zealand was cringe.
Are you familiar with their history?
Are you familiar with surgical hairline reduction?
New Zealand wants to take away their rights the same way America took away ours. The Haka symbolizes pride, strength, and unity.
That doesn't matter. They were in a courtroom. That's completely unprofessional and cringe. Why would they even do that? Are they crazy?
They were asked by the judge what they thought of revising their treaty after labeling it divisive, stating that it's not equality because the Maori get special provisions. So the Maori responded with their Haka.
Responded with their Haktua? Why couldn't they just say, no, judge, we don't like it?
I think this was a much more powerful response, seeing as how it received a lot of attention, and now me and you were talking
Yes, but
about
this was in a courtroom! How dare they express their heritage on their land that was colonized by the British?
I don't think you should be critical of somebody's culture just because you don't understand the history behind it. You're being ignorant.
You're ignorant! All I'm saying is it's too late! Haka 2025!
What does that even mean?
It was cringe! I don't understand other people's cultural background, so I just laughed. So funny!
To all those people in New Zealand who are talking about how the Haka filibuster is so annoying and it's the Haka again the 6th time this week, let me tell you something. Here in the US, our filibusters last hours. All right, a Haka is like what, a few seconds, a few minutes? The filibusters here in the US last hours. I would rather take a Haka chant than listening to Ted Cruz read O McDonald Had a Farm for 12, 15, 20 hours straight nonstop.
When this MP from New Zealand, Hannah Clark, represented her people the way she did in Parliament. Hannah is from a indigenous community called the Maori. She was performing was a ceremonial dance from her people called the Haka. They were protesting a bill that would have reinterpreted their treaty that was signed in the 1840s by leaders within her community and the British Crown that guaranteed her people specific rights and protections. Her community makes up 18% of New Zealand's population. Her people still have a disadvantage when it comes to income, education, healthcare. They are going through the same struggles that my people, along with other minority groups, are going through in this country. That young lady inspired the hell out of me. It reminded me the importance of my people having a seat at the table in this country and understanding how important it is to vote so we can get shit done for our community.
If I was in the New Zealand Parliament and one of the Maori people decided to do a Haka, that's it. I don't care if I propose the bill, I'm voting with them.
Oh my mate, can we talk about the Maori people? And the young MP that led the Haka in the Parliament over in New Zealand. Why was I so drawn to these people and I never had a clue what was going on? Why was I so emotional and filled to the brim with goosebumps and adrenaline running through my body when I watched them do the Haka? And I didn't have the slightest idea what their reasons for it was, what it meant, what they was doing it for. Like, they could have just been putting on a Haka for, I don't know, just as a show or whatever. But the power and the energy that I felt, even through the phone, just watching them, I can't explain it. I can't put it into words. Like, I was mesmerised and amazed by it to the point where I actually had tears in my eyes and goosebumps running through my body and like an electric, like a tingly feeling in my belly where I was just like, wow, wow. And now I've educated myself on it and I've looked into it and I understand why the people was doing it in the first place. I'm even more blown away. And I'm like, how fucking powerful are these people? Their unity, everything that they stand for. Like, who else just wants to be a Maori? Like, I so badly, I'm like, I want to be a Maori. I feel spiritually connected to these people. Like, I can't explain it. I've watched them do that. I've watched that Haka in Parliament 100 times and shared it and reposted it 100 times. And every time I watch it, it has the exact same impact on me as what it did when I first watched it. Even more now I know why they're doing it. And I'm like, wow. I'm just hoping that somewhere along the line I have some kind of genetic DNA, like, in me, part of them. I'm a black baby. Maybe there's a little bit of me that's Maori.
I am deep in New Zealander Maori TikTok, and I came across a video of a black creator from like a year ago where she asked, like, why is it that black people get so emotionally affected by the Haka? And I have a theory. Follow me. The Maori people are deeply connected to their ancestors when they perform the Haka. That is why you almost see a change in their physical appearance. And that was more evident to me than ever when I saw the video of the young lady in Parliament when she performed the Haka versus when she was just talking to the camera, and it was like a completely different person I was watching, because it's almost as if their ancestors come through them and speak for them. And I believe that our ancestors hitch a ride anytime there is a deeply ancestral connection with anyone, hence the Haka. Every time they perform the Haka, they have to access the ancestral plane. And every single time they access the plane, our ancestors hitch a ride because they are trying to connect with us. We get emotional because it's as if our ancestors come along to almost try to pull us back together. And that's why you will see black people kind of like congregate in the comment section of a Haka video, and they're emotional and they're connecting. And I think our ancestors are trying to speak to us through the indigenous people.
Did the youngest MP in New Zealand, Hana-Rawhiti Clark, disrupt the parliament? Yeah, but she did it for good reason. They were going to vote on a very controversial bill, the 184-year-old Indigenous Treaty Bill between the British Crown and the Maori people. This bill was going to change the Treaty of Waitangi. It was going to rewrite it and reinterpret it. This is a bill that even the Prime Minister said it was going to be divisive. When you're accustomed to privilege, equality feels like oppression. So what did the youngest standing MP do? She ripped up a copy of that bill and led a gut-wrenching Haka. Members of her party and other members in the parliament joined in. If you didn't cry watching that moment, you have no heart. It wasn't about tradition. It was a call to action. Leadership should embody energy, passion, and deep connection with the people. This might be a little controversial to some of you, but now more than ever, our administration needs to channel that kind of energy and spirit. We need boldness in addressing the challenges facing our country. It's time for our leaders to rise up and show us that same fire. We deserve that same kind of commitment from those in power. Hana-Rawhiti Clark said, "Why do we have to beat to their drum?"
I am extremely moved by the Maori people, and I'm sure the rest of the internet can attest to feeling the same way. And I don't want us to miss that the Maori people are in a fight for their lives right now. Before Hana gets up to rip the paper, she says something which translates into, and Maori people, correct me if I'm wrong. She says, "Government, you exist because I say so, and now I revoke your rights." Hana's words reverberated through me in learning the meaning because it sounds very similar to Martin Luther King Jr. in a part of his Dream speech, where he says that the government of the United States of America gave colored people a bad check marked with insufficient funds. And ultimately that we were coming to collect that check and it better had something on it. Or the famous Malcolm X speech where he is calling for equality and justice, and he says that we will get it by any means necessary. Every single marginalized group on this earth has experienced colonization, imperialism, stripping of language, culture, custom, destruction of their history, whether it be by burning their books or banning them. And if we all understand that, then we can get behind every marginalized movement, including our own. Because it should be easy then to spot who the true oppressor is and what forms of oppression are keeping us from life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness.
I know that lately New Zealand has gotten a lot of attention of people wanting to move here because, you know, lots of annual leave, workers have protection, there's safety nets in case you get injured, there's safety in general. The most ice cream in the entire world per capita is consumed here. There's really gorgeous scenery, free healthcare. I would argue probably the nicest people you've ever met live here. I thought I would throw some cold water on people's dreams since I've lived here for almost 3 years, and let's talk about the negatives about New Zealand. The first negative is actually pretty big. They do not have locked in 30-year mortgages when you buy a house here. I didn't realize that is pretty much an American thing. We've just bought a house and gone through that process, and it's a lot different. Speaking of houses, the next negative is that the coldest I've ever been in my entire life has been here in New Zealand, inside of my own house. A large chunk of houses here are just not insulated in the same way that we're used to in North America, and central heating is in general not a thing. I've been so cold sitting in my living room, my hands hurting so bad like I can't even type on a computer here in New Zealand. We did just buy a house that is insulated in a much higher standard manner with like double glazed windows and stuff. So I'm hoping next winter it won't be as bad here for us. The next negative I talk about all the time, the roads here are really hard for Americans to drive on. And don't listen to any New Zealand people in my comments because New Zealanders are also the kings of understatements. They will downplay everything. I've been told something is a nice hike, and 3 hours later, as I'm using my hands more than my feet to get up the top, I realized that nice means something different. And being told a road is just a little bit windy at one bit, and then all of a sudden you're basically on a goat path with like two-way traffic going around blind turns with like sharp drops on one side. That's just in between like the cities and towns, so generally the roads are fine like when you're actually where you're going. Remember whatever we're at, 3 or 4, New Zealanders are really quiet, and that actually is a negative for Americans because it's hard to hear them. Felt like I was going crazy my first 6 months here, working in the emergency departments, getting used to the Kiwi accent. Everyone's wearing masks, and I couldn't hear anybody. People talk so quietly here. And then the last negative is that New Zealand is really, really isolated. It's far away. It's hard and it's expensive to go back home. I know after this week that some people might pop that into the positive column, but it's something to consider.